Right. We'll go ahead and put the meeting to order at 5 p.m. 1.01B roll call.
Mr. Duarte,
Present.
Dr. Zhang,
Present.
Mr. Kwok,
Present.
Mr. De La Torre,
Present.
Mr. Medrano,
Here.
Dr. Jimenez,
Present.
Mrs. Bowie,
Here.
Dr. Fancher,
Here.
Ms. Rojas,
Here.
All right, 1.01C, review the agenda with any additions, deletions, or corrections. Dr. Jimenez?
Yes, thank you, Board President Duarte. This evening, we do have some additions and deletions. So for additions, 1.10 supplemental minutes for the virtual regular meeting on September 10th, 2020. 5.03A, human resources supplemental to certificated personnel recommendations list. 5.03.B, human resources supplemental to classified personnel recommendations list. 5.03.C, human resources supplemental to other employee personnel recommendations list. For deletions, 1.04.D, closed session, and 7.07A, student discipline matters. Please delete both items as there are no discipline matters for this evening, and we have no corrections. Thank you.
All right, sorry, 1.02, adoption of the agenda, including any additions, deletions, corrections, and adjustments in order of business. Can I have a motion?
Kwok moves.
I had a motion by Mr. Kwok. Who is the second?
Medrano.
Mr. Medrano, second. Roll call, vote, please.
Mr. Medrano,
Aye.
Mr. De La Torre,
Aye.
Mr. Kwok,
Yes.
Dr. Zhang,
Aye.
Mr. Duarte,
Aye, motion carries 5-0. 1.03, audience members who wish to speak to items listed under closed session only may address the board at this time. We had no request to speak at closed session items. 1.04, adjourn from public meeting to closed session. Can I have a motion?
Kwok moves.
Motion by Mr. Kwok. Is there a second?
De La Torre, second.
Second by Mr. Del Torre. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Medrano,
Aye.
Mr. De La Torre,
Aye.
Mr. Kwok,
Yes.
Dr. Zhang,
Aye.
Mr. Duarte,
Aye, motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned from public meeting to closed session. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We will go ahead and reconvene the public meeting at 5:05 p.m. Did I get that right? Yeah, let's see. All right, 1.07, Pledge of Allegiance. Can we have Ms. Rojas lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Everyone, please stand. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Rojas. 1.08, report of actions taken during the closed session. Moved by Mr. Kwok, seconded by Mr. Duarte. The Board of Education voted 5-0. Approve the settlement of Los Angeles Superior Court case number BC 698518, 5 ayes, 0 noes. 1.09, roll call.
Mr. Duarte,
Present.
Dr. Jung,
Present.
Mr. Kwok,
Present.
Mr. De La Torre,
Present.
Mr. Medrano,
Here.
Dr. Jimenez,
Present.
Ms. Bowie,
Here.
Dr. Fancher,
Here.
Ms. Rojas,
Here.
Okay, thank you. 1.10, approve the minutes for the virtual regular meeting on September 10th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Quack moves.
Motion by Mr. Kwok. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Dr. Chang?
Yes.
Second by Dr. Chung. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Medrano,
Aye.
Mr. De La Torre,
Aye.
Mr. Kwok,
Yes.
Dr. Jung,
Aye.
Mr. Duarte,
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. 1.11, request to speak to agenda items. A, confirmation of request cards collected from audience members wishing to speak to items on the agenda. We received 6. 2, reports and presentations. 1, superintendent's report. Dr. Jimenez.
Thank you so much, Board President Duarte. So good evening, members of the board, cabinet, staff, students, parents, and community. This evening, I would like to report to the board that it has been a busy 2 weeks, as always, since our last board meeting. And there are many great things happening in our district, which will be shared a little later in our celebration section. And I also want to thank our teachers for all of their engagement around parent conferences this week. This is a parent conference week, so our teachers are having those discussions with our families and updating them as to the progress of their children. So we want to thank our teachers for all of their work with that, as also our classified staff who helps support the teachers, whether it's in the classroom or still helping our families through the meal distribution and everything that we do to support all of our students. So we appreciate you all. So as part of my report this evening, I would like to update the board just on a few areas before we get to our celebrations. And I want to inform the board regarding our COVID-19 update. We have been informed by the LA County Department of Public Health, LACDPH, that we are in the purple tier still, but we need 2 weeks of decreasing COVID-19 cases metrics to move over to the red. And so as a reminder, the state redid the tier system, and now the tier system goes from purple, which is the most restrictive, to red, to orange, and finally to yellow, with yellow being the least restrictive. And so currently we're still on the purple, and it takes us having metrics of the next category, which is red, to move into that section. But the county health department is concerned that due to some of the rising connections during the Labor Day weekend, that could impact that metric. And so as you all know, we don't see the impacts of COVID until 2 to 14 days after symptoms start to appear, then folks start getting tested, and that's when you start seeing some of the spikes. So just a reminder to all of our communities to continue wearing face covering and face masks to help decrease the transmission of this deadly virus. And as a reminder to our families and our employees, we will not open schools for hybrid learning until it is safe to do so, and it's cleared by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. We follow all of our guidance from them. Their guidance is more restrictive than the guidance that comes from the California Department of Public Health and even the guidance that comes from the Centers for Disease Control. So our jurisdiction requires us, and our area that we are accountable to is the LA County Department of Public Health. So we won't do anything unless it's been vetted and approved by the LA County Department of Public Health. So I want to make sure I make that point clear. And so as some of you may have heard, as this has been shared in the news, that for athletics, athletics are allowed to return for in-person conditioning, provided that we are following the athletics protocols, which are posted on the LA County Department of Public Health website to begin, conditioning. So what our plan is to start allowing the Zoom conditioning to occur. As you all recall that prior, that was something that the county health department had said, no, you can't even do conditioning via Zoom. And so that has since been lifted. So we're going to start having our coaches bringing on the students through Zoom and start that conditioning, as soon as possible, because we know as things do decrease with respect to the COVID cases, that'll be something that athletics will start coming back online. And so I just want to make sure, once again, that, we do follow those protocols of the LA County Department of Public Health, and we will let the board know once we are ready to begin in-person conditioning using the cohort model. So even under that model of athletics returning for in-person conditioning using physical distancing requirements, you still follow a cohort model where you have your team set up in cohorts, and these cohorts don't interact with each other, but they could be in the general space, and it's all outdoors. Nothing is approved for indoors with athletics. So that's the COVID-19 update. With respect to other news on the Temple Academy project, I want to let the board and the community know that we are proceeding with the planning. And for those of you who are tuned in and watching the board meeting this evening, the County of Los Angeles is funding the build of a high-quality Olympic-style aquatic center, and the district will be building a state-of-the-art performing center at Temple Academy. So to that end, the county did contract with Active SGV, who will be holding community meetings during the week of October 5th to obtain input on the aquatic center. So they will be holding large virtual meetings for students, staff, and employee associations, and the community members that live within a half-mile radius of the school site will be invited to participate. So you'll hear more information. They'll be passing out flyers, and we'll be distributing some through the meal distribution line, putting it out on social media, as well as our website. So it's something that everybody in the community will be invited to or can participate if they choose to do so. Also, Active SGV will also meet with our high school students. And so we're using the Superintendent Student Leadership Advisory Council as a focus group where they can come in and obtain feedback from our student leaders at the high school. There will also be a community-wide meeting the week of November 2nd to bring all of the groups together to share input and determine if the aquatic center planning design represents the feedback of the stakeholders. So basically, it's a feedback loop asking the community, hey, did we get this right? What input we took from everybody, is this really represents what everybody says would be a great project here with the aquatic center? So that community meeting will be held in the week of November 2nd. And so we'll share that information as soon as that is shared with us. So we are inviting them to come back in November to our board meeting. And in November, we only have one board meeting. And so they'll be able to present their findings and keep everybody up to date as to what they found out through that process. On another note, I'd like to invite the community to my superintendent's town hall forum, which will be held on Wednesday, September 30th at 6 p.m. So please check our district webpage and our social media for how to submit your questions, which we will be aggregating, and I will be answering live that evening. And so some of the questions I know our parents have center on distance learning and the eventual return to school. So I actually checked today, and there's parents who are already submitting their questions through that format. So just a reminder, questions must be submitted by Tuesday noon. And so please make sure that if you have questions, please make sure you use the link that's listed on our district website for you to submit those questions so that we can aggregate them, and that way we're not duplicating any questions that we get to maximize our time together. And before I speak about our celebrations, I would like to remind everyone to please, please, please complete the census. The deadline is fast approaching on September 30th, and every census completed translates to about $1,000 in return in funding to the local community. And so currently, I understand in LA County, we're at about 64% completion. So we got a long way to go, and it's right down the corner from us. So we want to make sure we get that done. If you need help filling out the census, there is support at La Puente High School on Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 to 2. So there's support there for those of you who need help with the census. And I just want to say thank you to all of those of you who have done that already, as I know we've sent reminders before on our social media accounts and our notification systems. And on the same note, I just also want to remind you all to remember to vote this election cycle. You know, as usual, we are a polling site. Our schools serve as polling sites for the community. And I understand that this year you could vote at any polling site as long as you live in that same county. So once we get the final confirmation of the list, we will push that out there on social media and on our website as well. As I move on to the next item, this evening, we do have a celebrations presentation to share with the board and community that will highlight the many great things happening for our students in our district. And of particular importance is a selection of our district as a top 100 organization or company and the Forbes Best Employer list. And just so that you know, this is an honor bestowed to only 3 school districts in the state. So we know this is a true testament of the positive work environment and the relationships that our district has established for all of our employees in support of providing the best education for all of our students. So we are thankful to all of our team members for contributing to this honor, and to our students as well for placing their confidence in our school district. And so with that, I'll say, let's get started with the celebrations. And I see they are ready to go and we're right on cue. So if I can get the next slide in the celebrations. So as you all know, we have the celebrations listed matching the areas of our LCAP. So for the first one, conditions of learning, if I can get the next slide. We are celebrating connected in a virtual environment. So we're highlighting one of our middle schools here at Sierra Vista. You can see how they are ensuring that our kids still have access to clubs. There's still activities that are happening through the virtual world, Spirit Week, Patriot Day, School Site Council. It looks like they are creating a positive school culture there and continuing the great work that is happening there. So shout out to Sierra Vista Middle School. If I can get the next slide, please. This one's at Newton Middle School. And so here, you know, they actually held a first responders drive. So thank you to all of the Newton Middle School community and others who participated. They teamed up with AYSO Region 23 for a supply drive for our firefighters that are battling the wildfires. And they were able to fill 9 pickup trucks and 2 trailers, so in support of that. So we are thankful to our firefighters. As you all know, this past month has been very trying, as we've actually had our own local fires there in Hacienda Heights. And I know we actually have been able to be a support to our local fire departments and using one of our middle school, Orange Grove Middle School, as a staging place for the teams, as well as Los Altos High School. So hats off to our school at Newton Middle School for providing that support for our firefighters. Next slide. We also, and actually this is a continuing slide, I apologize for that, but this is a continuing slide just to show the magnitude of the collection. So thank you. Next slide. And once again, this is to highlight the Forbes Best Employers by state. And we actually have sent this out on social media. We've submitted it for publication to various news outlets to highlight the great work. If you're interested in learning more about the criteria, I can share a little bit about it. It is based on an independent survey of approximately 80,000 employees working for companies employing at least 500 people in the US. So the surveys were administered using a series of online panels, and they provide a representative sample of the US workforce. Direct and indirect employee recommendations were evaluated on a state level. So the final scores represent employers of high quality within a particular US state. And this is directly from Forbes. And they did use a third-party company, Statista, which did all of those studies. So this wasn't something that Forbes could have tweaked because there was an independent evaluator conducting the study. So once again, thank you to all of our employees for all of their work in making this happen. Next slide, please. Once again, celebrating the work of our food services department. And so they're out there. And so this is just to give an update as to how many meals we have served. And so you can see the counts there for breakfast, lunch. So total of 131,052 meals we've served, and fresh fruit and vegetables at 3,680. And so we are thankful of the federal government for lifting some of those restrictions with respect to who we can feed. And so we can feed all students who come through the meal distribution lines. And so we are grateful for those restrictions being lifted. And so thank you to our food services team. Next slide, please. Again, this is a slide here. We're celebrating our support of our employees there at the warehouse, preparing for the arrival of student technology. And as you all recall, we had deployed about 9,000 laptops, and we had deployed 45,500 hotspots, which I know since then we purchased additional hotspots because through our ongoing surveys, we have received additional requests. And so we do understand that some of you in our community may have taken the opportunity of some of the local internet providers that were offering free internet at some point over the summer. And we know many of those provisions are coming to an end. And so please, please, please let us know if you need support for a hotspot. And so we have done some stress tests thanks to our NCS team. They've done some stress tests on our hotspots, and they can pretty much accommodate 4 to 5 laptops connected to them. So we know they're very dynamic, and we know they work. So we want to make sure that if for any reason you're having trouble with a hotspot, please contact. Start first with your site, your school principal, because maybe it's just a matter of switching out a hotspot. If they have a hotspot there on campus, more than likely that can be switched out. If not, please contact our NCS department, as we have support here through 7 p.m. Yes, you heard me right, 7 p.m. And I've been here many times at our district office, and I see the parents come in and they're excited to be able to get help and technology support in a genuine, customer service manner. So thank you, and hats off to our NCS team. Next slide, please. Again, once again, the support of the processing of all of the hotspots. There is an example of it. Our Hlpusd transportation team even was involved in helping support so that we can get those out there. So thank you as well to our transportation team department. Next slide, please. Again, examples of our meal distribution side and some of our employees there doing their work, and the happy smiles to be able to serve our community. So that is priceless there. Next slide, please. Again, this is at California Elementary, home of the Bears. And so we have here an example of hands-on learning for kindergartens, and they're at the side preparing some packets. Some of our schools still do that. They supplement the materials that our littles need, that can't always be done through a computer or cannot always be done through some kind of a tech device. So we are grateful to all of our schools that are doing that as supplementary materials that really help with the tactile. So the littles need exposure to tactile, hands-on activities. And so there are still opportunities for them to be able to get that type of learning as well. So hats off to California Elementary for making that happen. Next slide, please. Again, supporting our students and our community at Fairgrove Academy. So you can see there our team there in the office. They have the appropriate PPE. There's the sneeze guards up. And so they're there to support our community. So thank you, Fairgrove Academy. Next slide, please. And as you all know, the board approved last month a celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th. And so this is an example of just some quotes that we have for everyone to reflect on and some of the inspirational leaders and heroes that have made an impact for our students. And so we encourage our schools to continue with that and providing that support and that leadership to our students, as diversity is extremely important in celebrating our diverse cultures. Next slide, please. In this slide, we celebrate our adult education program, and this is an example of contactless CASAS pretesting. And so we are an approved site still to carry on academic testing for our adult students who are able to come in following the proper, guidelines. They're able to either test in person or even test from the comfort of their home. And so, as you all know, our adult education programs, especially in those areas that fill an essential work sector, are still allowed to come on campus. And so they actually are learning through a hybrid model. The times they do come on campus is to take, their certification that cannot, in some cases, be done at home. And so we're happy and pleased to see that we're still able to continue this service for our adult learners. Next slide, please. And this one is a celebration for students at Wilson High School. Myla Romero, who's a school site council chairperson, school site council vice chairperson, Belay Sandoval, and Simone Yu. They are actually the student members on the school site council. And so it's great to see our student leaders be involved and developing that leadership skills and capacity at that level. So thank you for your service, and thank you to Wilson High for making that possible for our students. Next slide, please. For student outcomes, next slide. We want to celebrate our 5 La Puente High School Posse Scholarship finalists. And so what a great honor to be part of the Posse Foundation. For those of you who aren't aware of what the Posse Foundation does, it's an organization that works to provide scholarships for students. And they typically, when they give scholarships for students, they scholarship all of the students that they scholarship from a particular school in a cohort or from a district. They typically will cohort them, and they all go to the same college together. The idea is that if you have that network of support from your home base, from students that you know, you're more likely to finish and graduate college. And so we know that not all of our students who end up going to college end up graduating from college. I mean, there are statistics on that. And so our job is to ensure that once they're there, they finish. And so that is something that, moving forward, I'll be looking into to see how our colleges are being accountable for retaining our students. And so excited for our students to be part of the Posse Scholarship Foundation. So thank you to Berenice de Anda, Jaden Oquendo, Fatima Pulido, Anthony Galeana, and Grace Hernandez. So hats off goes to you for all of your hard work. Thank you. Next slide. Our 2020-2021 Race to Submit winner goes out to Valley Alternative School. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Race to Submit, it's a program to honor those schools that do their best and having the highest completion rate for federal student aid, which is called the FAFSA. And so they actually, from the schools within their total school population that qualify for small schools, they made the list. So I was able to go out there and spend some time there at Valley Alternative School with the principal and give them with the certificate and a congratulations on behalf of our board and school district. So thank you. And we hope that they'll win again next year. Next slide, please. Our after school program is up and running. For those of you who weren't aware, they actually are taking virtual field trips. So there's an example there of Field Trip Fridays. And so it's great that they're taking our students on these journeys and still providing that support and that help for tutoring for our students in the after school program environment, all held virtually. So thank you to our folks who are running our after school program and to our students that are taking advantage of it. Next slide, please. Los Altos High School, we recognize them because they have 4 scholarship winners at the college and career fairs. So 3 $250 Barnes and Noble gift cards, Isabela Perez, Ana Gonzalez, Laila Ortiz, and 1 $500 scholarship to Kaden Casilla. So congratulations to them. And if you can get the next slide, please. And our writing winners are here, as well as our scholarship winners continuing from Wilson High, Jessica Espinosa, Winnie Thong, and Sophia Doe. So congratulations to them for their scholarship winners and also the writing contest winner. Next slide, please. The next slide for parent and family engagement. We want to recognize a community-based organization called Serve in Arms. They are an organization that our district has partnered with for several years now, and they support our students and families and really work with our foster youth, and their whole goal is to really turn around the lives of students that may be experiencing homelessness or extreme poverty. So we want to recognize them for their support of our students. And they were able to honor 2 of our students and $1,000 scholarships for them to use for college. And they are the 2 pictures of our students there. So thank you to Serve in Arms. Next slide, please. And so we have a thank you here to our Office of Student and Family Services and Equity and Access. We want to thank Wing Lane Elementary staff, Mr. Valverde, friends and family for their donation and able to support and assist our hundreds of students and families. And so we want to thank them for their continued support and helping others. Next slide, please. Mesa Robles, they celebrated Grandparents' Day, so can't forget our grandparents. And so that's a great activity that, you know, I'm very familiar with, having done something very similar and honoring our grandparents in the community, because as you all know, it takes a village to raise a child. And many times our grandparents are right there helping support our students. So we thank our grandparents for all they do. And thank you to Mesa Robles for making this happen for their school community. Next slide, please. Sierra Vista Middle School is on here, and this is in remembrance of September 11th, or Remembrance Day, 9/11. And I, along with our board president, along with our chief of police and Dr. Lin, were able to share our thoughts and reflections in memory of that day. And so it was really amazing to see what our students have done. And they actually write letters, and they have these letters sent on to New York City. And so you can see in some of the pictures there some of the examples of our students' letter writing. So thank you to our team there for all of their work and making this happen for our students. Next slide, please. Our adult education and parent education workshops continue. They're ongoing. And so we've had over 150 district parents, enrolled in these, and there's various topics. So if you are interested in learning more on any of these items that are listed there on the screen, please make sure you contact our adult education program for a listing of future classes. So thank you for our adult education program for providing that support for our parents. Next slide, please. And this was a celebration of our college and career fair. So we were able to support our assembly member, majority leader, Ian Calderon, in support of the career and college fair. Both myself and board president and our student representative from the school, along with Mr. Joaquin Martinez, was able to support on that day. And it was a great day. I actually was online watching the live sessions, and I know Mr. Kwok also had a session that is highly attended. And so it's great that we were able to still provide this for our students, as many of them right now are racing to submit their college applications. And so remember, students, if you're listening, or parents who are listening, remember college applications for the Cal States, deadline's coming up, usually November 30th. And typically the UC is right around that time. And the private schools I know are a little later, but please, please, please make sure that you really focus on your applications. So I just want to say, thank you to Mr. Calderon and for all of our team for making this happen. Next slide, please. Orange Grove Middle School, they held a 9/11 remembrance. As you can see there from the photos, they actually were able to place several, I don't even know the number there, but several flags there were all placed in front of the school in remembrance of 9/11. So hats off to Dr. Nieto and to the assistant principal Lai for being able to do that at their site. Next slide, please. La Puente High School, just want to make sure that parents are supporting distance learning. And so they actually had a shout out there. So it's great to see that on the marquee, that Warrior Parents support distance learning. So thank you, parents there at La Puente High School, for all that you do. Next slide, please. And that concludes this portion of my report on the celebrations. And board, I also have two other items to present, and I'm going to ask our Associate Superintendent, Ms. Annie Bui, to do the introductions on these next two reports that we have as part of the superintendent's report and update.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jimenez. Good evening, board members and the superintendent. Tonight, actually, we have two reports. The very first one is a school site improvement project. It will be presented by Mr. Joe Duarte, and then it will be followed. It's going to be the bond report. It will be presented by Cumming. So I would like to see that if Nancy, can you have Mr. Joe Duarte get ready to present it? Thank you, everybody.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening.
Yes, we can. Go ahead and begin.
Okay, very good. Good evening, board members. Thank you very much. It's been a couple months since we've given this presentation. I think it was probably Mark Hansberger was the last one to give this before we went into this COVID. So thank you very much for giving the business office the opportunity to give this presentation. Nancy, could you go ahead and advance the slide? Go ahead again, please. So here's a list of some of the projects that we've completed in the last few months. Those that are done in blue are the ones that we've completed since the last time this presentation was given. You can see that here at the district office, we did complete the battery backup system, as well as a few of the bottle filling stations at Amar and Sunset. The North Conference Room renovation at the Willow Adult School has been completed, as well as some covered walkway work at Cedar Lane. We have additionally at Cedar Lane, Newton and Sparks, we have completed fire alarm projects over there. Next slide. At Mesa Robles, and you'll see, I believe you'll see some more of this later in the bond presentation, but we did complete interim housing portables as well as some permanent portables at Mesa Robles. Additionally, at Willow Adult School, we completed the kitchen remodel. Next slide. At Workman, there was a repair to a pool pump, as well as restriping as part of warranty work at Los Altos and Wilson High Schools. Nelson, we completed the 21st century sample classroom, and you'll see some pictures later in this presentation. Next slide. So here are a bunch of projects that we now have currently underway. There are a number of different bottle filling stations at some of the schools. Next slide. Again, more bottle filling stations, and you'll see down there at the very bottom, the South Conference Room at the Willow Adult School is underway right now. Next slide. We have more fire alarms that we are in progress at this time. You'll see, board members, beginning on this slide, and you'll see it continuing on some of the other slides, there is a note that some of the projects are on hold. They're on hold primarily waiting for the new facilities director to come on board in the last few months and dealing with the departure of Mark Hansberger and some of the COVID issues and challenges that we've had to kind of slow down on some of the projects. So when you see that it states that it's on hold, it's not indicating that there's any problem or anything, with regard to that. It's just we're kind of waiting for things to ease up a little bit on the staff. Next slide. You'll see that we have phase 4 of the lighting work is in progress at Del Valle, Quist, Los Robles, Palm, Temple, and Wing Lane. In addition, at LP, we are under construction for the new kitchen and the new pool and locker room, as well as pushing forward with the Wedgeworth work. As was mentioned in prior board meetings, we are currently still working through the CEQA process and putting the bid schedules together right now. Next slide. We have additional interim housing that will be part of the bond work that has gone to DSA and is currently in back check. The Willow Adult School restroom renovation is in progress as well. Next slide. And this is the Nelson C1 as part of the bond work. This was the sample classroom, and you could see the before and after pictures. Next slide. Here's more of that Nelson, that same classroom. I will mention that in these slides, you will see that we have the single table with the double chairs. We have made a change since these were purchased pre-COVID. So as we move forward, we are purchasing single student desks, which will allow us more flexibility, and if need be, we could keep the social distance. And as things in the COVID world change, we can move and rearrange those desks as desired. Next slide. Now, examples of some of the PPE and some of the work that the facility staff has been undertaking in the last few months. Next slide. This has been done by the carpenters in the facilities department. You could see a number in the next few slides, a number of the sneeze guards that they've built. I think these ones here might have been purchased, but if you go to the next slide, a bunch of these ones right here were actually manufactured by the carpenters from the facilities, and you can see they did a really nice job. Next slide. Here's some at Orange Grove. Next slide. Workman High School, Hudson, and here at the district office. Next slide. Next report will be in the October meeting. Thank you very much, and that concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Joe. And then before we moving to the next report for coming to present it, all of the progress for the bond, I want to officially to be in front of the board to recognize that the outstanding staff in the business services department, where I have Joe, I have Raymond, I have Olive, Thomas, and I don't have a lot of people left. We have the 3 major vacancies here. Staff have been doing an outstanding job during the COVID to move all the project along. And I'm very grateful for that. And I want to say thank you to all of you for doing an excellent job to keep it carrying on until we have the next person. Thank you. And now I believe that Jessica Morris is now going to begin to present the report for the board in terms of the bond projects. Thank you.
Hi, this is Jessica. I would like to echo that gratitude. We have been blessed to have all of those people helping us and carrying on and helping us move forward. We have next slide. Mesa Robles, you heard a little bit from Joel that we have the interim housing final punch list is about 95% complete. The elementary side 4 classrooms have all of their furniture installed. There's data installation and fire alarm going through DSA right now. So those certifications will mean the end of all of the open applications for Mesa Robles, which is, you know, a really good point. We're grateful for the consultant helping us to close all of those out. It's a heavy weight off of our shoulders to have those all put away. The construction for the 21st century, we started in August. We had pre-qualifications for the contractor list that will be helping us build those. Those contractors met with us yesterday and went on the project walks for the pre-bid information. We walked all the sites, we looked at everything, and they should be getting bids into us next Wednesday. Next. Oh, and the bottom corner there, on 515, Mesa Robles looked like that. Okay, next slide. Next slide, yeah. Sorry, I live far away, so the lag is a little long. Back one, please. So during grading and after the delivery of the buildings, that little area where that tree was looked like that. And the one on the right is how it looks now. Next slide. In that back area, the asphalt paving was damaged and a little bit deteriorated. So that is part of the fire lane. So that infrastructure, that safety infrastructure has all been rebuilt. That asphalt has been reinstalled, and you can see that it has that drainage. So it's draining and it's all back clean, fresh, not cracked. Next slide. For the introduction of the additional, we put in 9 relocatable classrooms on this campus, and you'll see that we needed some new switchgear and a new transformer to power those. Next slide. And those are the 4 interim classrooms over on the kindergarten side. You can see 2 on the right, 2 on the left. Next slide. Those are the classrooms that have the new furniture already installed. And this is a double classroom. It doesn't have a wall down the middle, and so it has a really large space inside. And so that will be eventually used as the new permanent dance and choral building. Next slide. Los Altos Elementary School, we had the interim housing was put in about a year ago, and it's been ready for a while. The furniture was delivered in June. It's ready to go. The 21st century classrooms were started in June, and on Tuesday we are beginning the punch list. So those will be ready. The first phase of construction will be punched next week, and then in a couple of weeks, phases 2 and 3 that have been running in tandem will be ready to punch. We caught up a little bit of time with fewer people on campus, so we've had access to more of the buildings. Next slide. You can see what the interiors of the classrooms are starting to look like. You can see new flooring, new data, power, walls. Next slide. There were access issues on the walkways to some of the classrooms, thresholds and the like. So now all of those walkways have been replaced, and now we have a no paint door swing circle. So those will never have to be painted again. They'll always be a different color like that. Next slide. This is what a permanent classroom is looking like with the new walls and new walk-off mat, the new flooring. Next slide. At the top there, you can see the little, there's a little graphic that shows that we are 90% done with construction. And this is for Nelson. The pilot classroom that Joel was talking about, it is 100% complete. We started Nelson on June 8th as well. And the furniture was delivered to the pilot classroom in June, and 10 of the other classrooms in July. And we're getting ready also to punch first phase next week, and then the following weeks, phases 2 and 3. Next slide, please. Thank you. And you can see in the number 1, number 2, and number 3 is the progression of what it looked like when it was demolished, what it looked like during, and what it looks like now. And this is kind of another close-up of those desks that we originally started with. The desks that we are now moving forward with are like that, only half the size, so they are individual desks. Next slide. There were access issues at Nelson as well, so those walkways have been removed and replaced. Next slide. Workman Elementary School, it also started in June, about a week after the other 2. It had site paving issues, and those are complete. Electrical, rough in and finish are 95 and 85% complete at this time. Maybe a little bit more since this was done a couple of weeks ago. Plumbing rough in is complete. Casework is going in. Countertops are going to be coming soon. Then plumbing will finish. Flooring installation at the permanent buildings is complete, and the portable buildings are about 50% done now. Installation of tack board is complete, and painting in the relocatable classrooms is underway. Next. You can see what the classrooms look like when the demolition was done and what the walkways were looking like when those were demolished. Next slide. And this is what they looked like when they were getting put in, and this is what they look like now, except for they're dry now. Next. These are the permanent classrooms with how they look with their new floor and wall finish. Now the floors there, I didn't get in there fast enough. The contractor covered them up with protective paper, so we don't get to see what the floors look like just now. Next. And up here at Cedar Lane, you can see we've got the interim housing is about 95%. It's at DSA for back check currently. We expect it to be out within the next couple of weeks. The 21st century classrooms are 100% DSA approved. Like I said, we went on our job walk with the pre-qualified contractors yesterday. And there were some DSA applications that were open on this, but I just want to say that DSA was really kind to us, and they worked with us really well. They resolved the problems that we were having, and by the time we close out this project at the end, all of those open applications with the help of facilities and with Joel, we were able to get those all put into this current contract, and those will be all closed out at the end. Like I said, we're out to bid. We'll open on Wednesday. Grandview, we are about 85% done with the construction documents. We anticipate getting into DSA before the end of the year. There's no open applications on that one. Next slide. Newton has interim housing, and those documents are 100% ready to go. DSA has approved those. The 21st century classroom documents we have, and we will be getting those back to the architect and into DSA probably in the month of October. There are some open applications from DSA that need to be addressed, and we've identified those and are working on them. Next. Sparks Middle School, about 85% done. We anticipate getting those into DSA, and that one also has some open applications. Next. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and thank you for your time tonight.
That's it, complete the report from Business Services, Dr. Jimenez.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bui, and Board President, Mr. Duarte, and board members. That concludes my superintendent's report and update. And Dr. Chang, I don't see Mr. Duarte. I know he was having some internet connectivity issue.
Okay.
Can you carry on the meeting, please?
Yes. And the next item is we finished with the superintendent report, and the next item is the public hearing regarding textbooks for the 2020 to 2021 fiscal year. I declare the hearing open. And anybody want to make a comment? Hearing none, I declare the hearing closed. Next item is communication, 4.01A, employee associations. First speaker will be the Hlpta president, Billy Joe Wright.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clear.
Yes, yes, Billy, go ahead.
Good evening, Board President Anthony Duarte, Vice President Joseph Chang, board members, Superintendent Jimenez, Cabinet, and those listening at home. My name is Billy Joe Wright, President of the Hacienda La Puente Teachers Association, a proud teacher formerly from Workman High School with deep generational roots in the city of La Puente and Hacienda Heights. I have probably had family members attend most of the schools in this district at some point. For those reasons and more, I am pleased to congratulate our Hacienda La Puente Unified School District family on being acknowledged by Forbes as one of America's top 50 employers in California. This anonymous survey is a result of the expectations and goals this board has set and the work Hlpta, CSEA, and SEIU have done working with the district's leadership teams to create contracts that value employees, foster safe working environments, and allow space for us to advocate for our students and communities. The work the associations do to protect and defend our contracts, especially behind the scenes, is key to how employees feel about their employer. While we celebrate our ranking, let's fully commit ourselves to our labor management relationship and aim higher now. That said, I would like to thank Dr. Jimenez for your recent leadership in resolving several issues or assisting with moving issues forward toward resolutions. I believe you are starting to see where the unnecessary roadblocks and breakdowns are that damage relationships, increase anxiety and stress for staff, and distract from people being able to focus on what matters, educating our students. So thank you, sir. There will always be questions and concerns as we enforce and defend our contract. Many ways are built into the system for us to resolve situations. First should be just basic communication, and there is always the grievance process. More serious are unfair labor practices that can be turned into complaints and charges with PERB against the district. Hlpta has filed 2 unfair labor practices in just the past 2 years. PERB agreed with Hlpta and issued 2 complaints against the district on our behalf, which means, quote from PERB, enough facts allege that an unfair practice may have been committed. The next step would be attending the informal meeting with attorneys for both sides. These types of things should be rare in any district, especially a labor management district. Hlpta does not file unfair practice charges lightly and works throughout the process to resolve. In both instances, it has come down to the last minute, days before attending the informal with attorneys, for the interim superintendent or superintendent to step in to resolve. You can do that because the issue never should have been an issue from the beginning. It just takes a professional to place the organization, the law, and our labor management relationship ahead of their own personal positions. Real people are affected by these things. Hlpta asked this board and Dr. Jimenez to understand the root of these problems and help to stop them from reoccurring. Students, guardians, and staff, you are all doing amazing things out there that we congratulate you on for the work you're doing and all you continue to achieve under these challenging circumstances. We all want to be back together as soon as safely possible. Every teacher, nurse, psychologist, speech language pathologist, counselor, and more want to be back on campus as soon as it is safe. That means the district must have safety protocols in place, which are still lacking. Aside from things that need to be bargained, this district has not had its safety committee meet in how long? I believe I was speaking about this 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and more. Where is the HLP USD Safety Committee? Where is the Risk Management Committee? two of the most important committees to ensuring students and staff are safe. These things affect real people. We cannot return until we know safety is a priority and protocols are in place and being followed. HLP-USD students, families, and staff, we need to do our part too. We must be wearing masks, washing hands, and social distancing. Not only must we be role models for others, but we must help bring down the numbers so we eventually can be back together. HLPTA does not want to lose any staff member or student because we came back too soon. According to the New York Times, quote, Black and Latino people have been disproportionately affected by the coronavirus across all age groups. The CDC on their website states, quote, some people with disabilities might be at higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19. If you have one of the disability types listed, you should discuss your risk of illness with your healthcare provider, end quote. HLPTA wants to remind everyone about this because we must not play politics with the safety of students, our families, and our staff. We will only return when safety protocols are in place. That said, this district lacks the safety protocols previously mentioned and seems to keep trying to move forward without engaging the bargaining units where you are legally required to. I hope these issues do not turn into more unfair labor practices. We join Dr. Jimenez and this district in reminding everyone to please complete the census. It is so important to us getting the funding and resources our students and communities deserve. Also, don't forget that HLPTA and this district both passed resolutions in support of Prop 15 prioritizing schools and communities first, which will bring $12.9 million to our district alone. Thank you to our administrators that have been going above and beyond to support students, families, and staff. We see and appreciate each of you. Thank you to our classified family for all you do every day. To our HLPTA members, you continue to earn the respect of everyone by everything you are doing under stressful, challenging circumstances. I do want to take a moment and ask you to please stop working 16+ hour days, often until the AM hours of the night. We know there is work to do. Your passion and professionalism demand that you do your best for students and that you feel under a microscope. But seriously, your mental health and relationships with friends and family matter. You must take care of yourself so you could be the best you in your role. I'm asking all of our HLPTA members, please set realistic hours and expectations on yourself and set realistic expectations on your students too, so that we can all get through this together. Thank you, Jill and Charles, for our weekly meetings and the several things we have resolved in those meetings. Thank you, Judy, for setting up our weekly meetings to start tomorrow and for working with us to maintain a vision of educational opportunities for our students that they deserve. Annie, as always, thank you for keeping our district financially sound so we can continue to operate and be able to cash our paychecks. And I want to echo what you've said, Annie. Your business services department has been doing amazing things, especially being down those 3 positions. So thank you all to business services. And I have to tell you, from that presentation, I'm more excited than ever for us all to get back together on our campuses because these improvements look so cool and our students and our staff deserve what you all are doing. So thank you again to everyone who's making these things happen because this is the best school district around. HLPTA, we remain proud to be HLP-USD. Thank you all. Please stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.
All right, thank you, Billy Joe. Next, we'll have Joyce Garcia with SU. Looks like it's going to be Laura Silva.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Laura. Go ahead and begin.
evening, board members, our SEIU Chief Steward. I would like to thank all of our HLPUSD teachers and classified workers who have been working tirelessly throughout this pandemic. I know some of our union brothers and sisters are not able to work remotely, but your hard work and dedication has not gone unnoticed. You truly are appreciated, and you are the heart of this district. With that said, SEIU members have experienced a few bumps in the road with the processing of remote work requests, from the time it takes to get an answer to the flat-out denials, to the hoops SEIU members have to jump through to justify their request. It is unfortunate that I stand before you today to voice these concerns. However, we have worked closely with Ms. Rojas to mediate these issues. We appreciate the time and support she has given us, and we thank her for providing guidance to administrators with the remote work process. However, there is still some clarification and/or training needed for some, so that these issues can be resolved at the site and we can work together as a team. Another concern that has been brought to my attention and that I personally have experienced is the bureaucracy to get purchase requisitions approved. The process currently in place creates barriers in providing essential support for students, teachers, and the school community in a timely manner. I personally have gone back and forth advocating for my administrator to have an order approved for student materials, incentives, for our clubs, such as School Site Council, who have already approved purchases for the school. And yet it takes up to a month and sometimes longer to get an order approved. The inequities are quite concerning when some sites do not have to follow the same protocols. Or at least it appears that way when we discuss amongst each other how orders are approved for some and not others. I would like to extend my personal appreciation to President Anthony Duarte, Superintendent Dr. Jimenez, Chief John Babbitt, and Executive Director Angela Lynn for their participation in Sierra Vista's 9/11 virtual remembrance. Many of our students and families were touched by your words and your support of the Sierra Vista Vikings. I would like to end this evening with inviting everyone to join me in wearing green tomorrow to recognize Start with Hello Week, a program that Sierra Vista has been nationally recognized for. Start with Hello is one of several programs Sierra Vista participates in aimed at ending social isolation and school violence. Just today, Sandy Hook Promise acknowledged Sierra Vista on our Twitter page. You too can follow Sierra Vista Middle School on Twitter and all of our social media platforms. Please continue to wear your masks, practice social distance, and stay safe. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Laura. Next, we have Margaret Caldera with CSEA.
Good evening, everyone. Can you just confirm that you hear me?
Good evening.
Yep, we can hear you, Margaret.
Thank you. Good evening, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Jimenez, cabinet, and guests. First off, I would like to acknowledge the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Changes to the United States, especially on women's rights. So hopefully they'll appoint another one just as wonderful as she was. Thank you, Dr. Jimenez, for the town hall flyer that went out today. CSCA is looking forward to attending the event scheduled for Wednesday, September 30th at 6 p.m. CSCA would also like to thank you for including CSCA in the communication that went out to parents of Temple Academy. We are disappointed, just as the community is disappointed that the current and past school board members from at least the last 6 years did not communicate to the staff and community that Temple will be closed permanently at the end of this year. There were never any staff or community meetings stating this was something that was actually in the works. Dr. Jimenez, we are glad to see that you are doing your due diligence to communicate with all stakeholders. This is definitely a move in a positive direction and long overdue. CSEA members are concerned of the closing just as students, parents, and teachers. CSEA was told that we would be meeting with Joe Rojas of HR regarding staffing, and we look forward to meeting as soon as possible to discuss how that closure will affect the students and the staff. Hopefully, it will ease some of their anxiety and burdens. And CSEA would like to echo Billy Joe's comments. CSEA also appreciates how you've been able to assist us in matters that should be easily resolved at the lowest level. And for some reason, they continue to escalate higher and higher, where we have to reach out to you. And we do appreciate you coming in and helping us find a solution together. And moving forward, hopefully we'll be able to address these matters at the lowest level. CSEA would always like to address things at the lowest level and correct them, and then move forward from them and learn from them. So thank you very much. And I appreciate when I do reach out to you, you either, if you're not busy, you take my calls. And if you are busy, you take the time to call me back. So I want to thank you, because before I would have to make an appointment and have to wait a week or 2 weeks, or and sometimes even months to be able to talk to the former superintendent. So I want to say thank you so much. We appreciate that. And we will continue to work together with the district. I also like to thank you, Dr. Jimenez. I've received multiple concerns in the finance department, which Annie was addressing earlier, where she said amazing things were happening there and that she thanked the staff. So I agree, there are amazing things happening in the district. However, this was a big concern. We're living in COVID, and I actually went into the district office in the finance department and I was shocked. I was just taken aback. I can't even describe how I felt walking in there and seeing not only CSEA members, but SEIU members who are working